Kalenjin History, by Chepkwony Araap Chepkwony. In this series I will be looking at Kalenjin history, people, culture and folklore. In this first episode I will narrate the tragic story of Cheruiyot Araap Chepkwony and Barsirian Araap Manyei. Many have seen the Cheruiyot Street in Eldoret and wondered who is he. Others too have come across the Barsirian Avenue in Muthangari, Nairobi. So who are these little-known Kalenjin men who have streets named after them? As the British settled in Kalenjin land, two men of Manyei age set took a very different opinion of white men who had recently settled in their lands and killed their Cheruiyot. The different philosophy on how to handle the British led these men in different trajectories, but finally converging in a tragedy for one of them and persecution and detention of the other. One embraced the white man rising to be distinguished chief in Nandi, the other opposed the colonialists, becoming the longest detained political prisoner in Kenyan history, losing his father and having his family and clan banished. But after independence their paths once again crossed with tragic outcome. Barsirian Araap Manyei was born to Cheruiyot Araap Chepkwony in 1882 in Samatui, present Nandi County. He was the second-born son of Cheruiyot's second wife, Cheruiyot Chepkwony. His elder brother was known as Cheruiyot Araap Chepkwony and he had three sisters. He was initiated into the Manyei age set. Cheruiyot Araap Chepkwony was born in 1897 in Nandi district. Chepkwony is the name given to child born out of a woman-to-woman marriage. He grew up in Koyo village and did menial jobs and herding cattle for different homes since his family were poor. As a young boy he was asked by Arab traders near Kibagori to drive their herd of cattle and sheep that they had purchased down to Mombasa. After reaching Mombasa, Elijah attended the nearby Anglican mission at Rabbi where he admired Christianity and formal education. While still there, the World War I began and was conscripted to join the army and fought under the King's African Rifles. After being discharged from the army following the end of the war, Chepkwony went on to become a cook in a British settler's house in Eldoret. He was extremely intelligent and learned fast to read and write by making shapes of letters he saw on cans and bottles. He soon became proficient in reading and writing as he made entries in his master's ledgers. In the American South he would have been referred to as a house Negro. When he heard that the missionaries had begun education in Nandi, he left in 1919 and joined the mission to perfect his knowledge and he became a member of the AIM, Africa Inland Mission. Barsirian Araap Manyei was born to Nandi Cheruiyot Araap Chepkwony during a period when the British rule was being established. He saw the valiant men of Kaplilark and Kimyige Agazet wage a 10-year battle against the might of the British army. Barsirian saw how his Talai clan lead the war providing both spiritual and tactical resources to the Nandi army. His father was killed when he was just a teenager and saw his family disintegrate as the white man went after the institution of the Cheruiyot with a bloody zeal. In 1923, when the Sagate Flat Ato or the sacrifice of the ox was to take place, a build-up of antagonism and unrest toward the government was brewing. The Sagate Flat Ato, sacrifice of the ox, had taken long to happen because of the conflict with the British. The historically significant sacrifice of the ox, ceremony where leadership of the community was transferred between generations, had always been followed by an increased rate of cattle raiding as the now formally recognized warrior age set sought to prove its prowess. The approach to a Sagate Flat Ato, sacrifice of the ox, thus witnessed expressions of military fervor, and for the ceremony all Nandi males would gather in one place. Alarmed at the prospect, the colonial government came to believe that Barsirian was planning to use the occasion of the ceremony as a cover under which to gather forces for a massive military uprising. On October 16, 1923, several days before the scheduled date for the sacrifice of the ox, Barsirian Araap Manyei and 4 other elders were arrested and deported to Meru. Barsirian Araap Manyei was detained from 1923 to 1964, making him Kenya's longest-serving political prisoner. He was detained at Meru, Mfangano Island and in Kapsabet. Cheruiyot on the other hand continued living the ideal life. He married Drusilla at a Christian white wedding officiated by Reverend Reuben Chepkwony Sereni at a Banja Anglican church. His first employment was at the district commissioner's office as a clerk. He worked there for a while before being appointed to the provincial administration to replace headman Cheruiyot Araap Chepkwony who had been deposed in 1929. Chief Elijah worked very hard to establish British rule among the Nandi. He was abrasive and had little or no patience with Nandis. He seriously suppressed the Talai clan. No wonder he played a role in the enactment and implementation of 1934 Laban's removal ordinance. He earned great disdain from the Talai clan members and was feared and praised by moderate Nandis, especially those who had been converted to Christianity. After some time he moved and lived in Richard Meinertzhagen's house built in 1905 at Kaptumo. By doing this he epitomized an era many Nandi people wanted to forget, for Meinertzhagen was the killer of Orkoyot Koitalil Samoe. Later Elijah was accused of honoring the Briton, Meinertzhagen, with a sambut that belonged to the late Koitalel. The chief became an outcast after elders performed a ritual, Chupiziat, repeatedly uttering the words, Barak Korgo, Barak Korgo, Barak Korgo, Barak Korgo, Barak Korgo, may you be killed by a woman. Barsirian Araap Manyei served most of his life in detention at Rasinga Highland with other senior members of the Talai. The British feared him very much that he was given 24 hours security at the island. They had been detained with also their wives, but one day Barsirian's senior wife disappeared with their son, never to be found by the British soldiers. It is alleged that they boarded a boat from the island, but what buffed the authority is how she boarded the boat to the mainland, yet there was a very tight security and thorough security checks in the island. Barsirian's wife and their 4-year son travelled safely to their home in Nandi Hills. Barsirian seemed a very patient man in that he persevered the 40 years in prison with his remaining younger wife. He was later released when the colonialists had started preparation to give Kenya independence. When Barsirian came home he found Chief Elijah Cheruiyot, Eldoret Street named after him, running one of the Cheruiyot, and as he had been welcomed by some of the chiefs, but Chief Elijah, supporter of British rule, was not happy from what Araap Manyei said concerning the oppressive British rule. One morning they quarreled before Chief Elijah left to Nairobi to celebrate Queen's birthday, and Araap Manyei told him that if he is not happy with his presence that signified end of British rule and freedom to the Nandis, then he could follow them, white men, with his spirit. Later news came in that Chief Elijah had died in a grisly road accident at Sechangwan caused by a vehicle driven by a white woman, Korgo. Cheruiyot's greatest unsung contribution is his historical perspective and narration to At Matson, which led to writing of the book Nandi Resistance to British Rule 1890-1906. The book, which will be reviewed here later, documents first-hand account of the Nandi resistance to colonial rule. During independence Araap Manyei was called by Mzee Kenyatta to bless the Kenyan flag. That's when he uttered the famous prophecy, Nengwag Rani, Nenyan Karen. This prophecy was about leadership. Many believe he had foreseen Moi's rise to the presidency 15 years later. He died in the 10th of April 1974, 4 years before Moi ascended to the presidency.